Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Line Change, the NHL betting podcast from the Action Network. My name is Michael Leboff. I am back in the power chair. Thanks to the two guys for holding it down while I was gone. Patrick Waugh followed me to the island, apparently. Pretty exciting stuff there. But before we get to Waugh, St. Patrick magic on the island, we'll handicap our way through this Tuesday evening slate. 9 games on the docket. We're going to start off with our favorite dogs, and we're going to start off with Tim and Nick. You guys are on the same page with yours. I'll get to my thoughts on the game you're going to talk about at the end of the show. St. Louis Blues. They're in Calgary. They're plus 136 right now. Flames minus 162. A total of 6. Tim, why do we like the Blues?
Leboff, great to have you back. St. Patrick's Day for you with Patty Waugh back. Happy for you. I'm on the Blues here because I just can't get here on this line. I think that I dove into it. It was kind of shocking at first when I saw St. Louis being a plus 130 or plus 140 doggish. And I dove into the numbers. I'm like, what am I missing here? I thought these two teams were closer than I assumed, or than the books were telling us, right? So St. Louis 46 points through 44 games, Calgary 47 points through 46 games. So then I tried my best to look at the advanced numbers, and Calgary is better than them, but it's not by much when it comes to the advanced numbers. I'm shaking my head a little bit about Binnington. I don't really know what to do with him. I feel like he got off to a really good start and then he kind of cooled off, and his advanced numbers say that he's still doing better than expected, but he's my biggest question mark here. I was hoping that the pod could kind of help me out. It's good news, I guess, Nick, that you're on this as well, but I just don't get here with the number. I think these two teams are closer than this, and Calgary's not going to fill the net. They don't terrify you in that aspect. So that's kind of how I land here.
Yeah, I expect Calgary to outplay them at 5-on-5. I don't think that's much of a take, but I also can't really get at this number. I think I'd made the point ahead of the Caps Blues game, the first game, where I was wrong and the Caps did win, that the Blues have played an extremely hard schedule over the last 10 games. If you look, it's been really, really tough. The first Caps game was probably their biggest disappointment in a while, but that also could have gone better. I mean, Justin Falk was kicking shots into his own net, and they were pretty snake bit in front of goal. And then they dominated them on Saturday and got a pretty deserved win. I think that these teams are a little closer than this. Markstrom is going to return, so it looks like he will return, but kind of word on that's going to be really important because I would love this number if it was going to be Vladar, obviously.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I think just a little too close. I think if you're getting better than plus 135 or right at plus 135, I would go on the Blues, and that was my favorite dog of the day as well. And then the Blues can be pretty opportunistic with their scoring. Their power play's been so dreadful this year, but it doesn't really make that much sense like you'd think. And it's bounced back a little bit at
I
times
believe
since the Calgary
Calgary's is just
survey.
as bad. I'm pretty sure Calgary's is just
Yeah,
as
and
bad.
the Blues should be able to run a pretty good unit. And again, it goes a lot past just the personnel, but I feel like Thomas, Cairo, and Buchnevich should be able to carry a pretty good unit. So yeah, I feel like they're going to trend up a little bit in terms of their goal scoring, and that gives them a good avenue here. And then the other one, too, that could be the classic Flames, but I think you could definitely consider Binnington going over his saves prop if it's set at 28.5 or lower here. So keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, Nick, St. Louis power play percentage 13.9, Calgary 13.8. Lovely.
Yikes.
Battle of two powerhouses. My favorite underdog. I think if you've been listening to the show, you probably could guess where I'm going here. I like the Columbus Blue Jackets. They are
Oh boy.
north of 3-1 right now against the Edmonton Oilers, who have won just the 13 games in a row. The Oil just crushing teams, and just they're making it look so matter of fact, right? Their wins right now. There's nothing complicated about them. I feel like maybe the Leafs one was the only one that had any drama to it. It feels like. That said, there's gonna come a time when you're gonna have to sell high, and this seems like a good spot to do it with a Blue Jackets team that, if they're not pesky, I don't know what they are. They just hang around. They get every game to overtime. It seems like they're okay trading chances with teams because they have some talent up and down the lineup to score with teams. Like they can send a game to overtime 4-4. It just happens. And it's just a classic sell high spot. Could be Calvin Pickard. It really looks like it's going to be Calvin Pickard in goal for Edmonton. We knew that the numbers were going to get outlandish on Edmonton when they started rattling off this win streak. When you rhyme off 13 in a row, they're going to get crazy. So yeah, Columbus to me, it seems like a good time to take a shot on a really really big underdog and hope that they're the ones that slow this roll for the Oilers. The Oilers haven't lost since they lost to the Islanders in whenever that was, sometime in December.
Of course, you
Um,
remember.
yeah, I remember that one fondly. It was a game that I thought the Islanders played all right, and then looked at the numbers. I'm like, Jesus, the Islanders did not play all right. Uh, any thoughts here, Tim, on CBJ and Edmonton?
To be honest, I scrolled right past this when I was looking at the big board, because I mean, I'm not looking to fade the Oilers as much as as a gambler, I guess I should be thinking that way. And I kind of scrolled past it because I didn't even bother looking at the price. But now that you mention it, Columbus, plus 310, I'm looking at right now. That's like a Sharks price. Like, that is a major, major, inflated line. I know. And I think, to your point, which probably helps the buy high aspect, is I think I've now officially seen every analytics, every writer, anyone who does power rankings, I think is now officially put the Oilers at the top. I got like a headline on my phone today that, like, finally, like, this writer is like, I put the Oilers at the top, which means probably the time to sell high. I also I am rooting for the Oilers because I did grab them 18-1 to win the President's Trophy a week ago. I tweeted it out. It's going to be a fun little ride here. It's down to like 13-1. So I guess I have a rooting interest now in the Oilers, now that, the ultimate chaos scenario of them missing the playoffs is very much out the window. So maybe Leboff, maybe I can get here with a little bit of a taste. Take some big balls here.
Nick, you have thoughts on the total in this one that you'll save for later, but anything on the side?
No, like I agree. I could see Columbus kind of surprising here. I'm gonna pat myself on the back, Tim, and say I was power ranking Oilers number one like 3 weeks ago, and people are still complaining that people are doing that today. But I think neutral venue Oilers would be favored versus any team in the league right now if you had like sharp books price it out. And I think that continues to surprise people. We talked last week about how they were 11-1 and how like that looked good, even another 8-1 everywhere. And I think especially now with the possibility they won't get a nightmare matchup. But with that said, this is a huge number. And my main argument for the Blue Jackets, as someone who's been really high on the oil, is just that I think Columbus has played better than people think. I think they have more offensive upside right now than they're kind of getting credit for. I don't love at all that Fantilli's getting slid back on the wing and Juricic is back down in the AHL. I don't really think they're running things well at all as an organization, but it does feel like they're kind of competing more and more. I think they can surprise and get some offense in this game, which ties into my overcall, and I think still does work in the favor with Mike here. And the other narrative that I wouldn't be surprised at all to see in this game is maybe Columbus comes out and starts surprisingly well and maybe wins the first period, and then the Oilers claw back into it late. I think that would be a game script I could definitely see happening.
Okay, so Blues and Blue Jackets is our favorite underdogs for Tuesday night. Let's get into the big board now. We'll start with Dallas and Detroit. The Stars licking their wounds after falling victim to Patrick Waugh and the New York Islanders. Minus 148 in Detroit. The Wings plus 124 and a total of 6.5. Detroit deserves a ton of credit for they're not just hanging around the playoff picture, but they are like a mover and shaker in the playoff picture right now. So good on Detroit, but this number looks about right, and that might sound surprising with how Detroit is going right now. But this Stars team is head and shoulders better than the Red Wings. So I could see some logic in using Dallas if you wanted to make a parlay, or if you're round robining and looking for an anchor piece to that bet. Nick, what do you think?
Yeah, I would have played the Stars down to minus 130, which are going to be passed, but that's like closer to Stars than Wings here. I think the main thing with Detroit for me, and they did play a really, really good game Sunday and a huge spot versus Tampa. So credit to them for that, because that helped their playoff chances a ton, and they deserve to win for sure. But over the last 9 games, Detroit's defensive play by most reasonable analytics. And I think watching the games too, there was some in there that were pretty clearly unconvincing. Hasn't been great. It hasn't really been great all year. And there's some pieces that I just don't think are that good defensively on their team. And they're getting a crazy save percentage out of Alex Lyon for like a 9-game sample. So to be fair to Lyon, he was pretty damn good last year too,
Yeah.
but I just don't really like, I think they're due to allow a lot more goals. And 926 save percentage over the last 9 games. And I think the chances have actually been pretty good quality. So I just feel like they could regress on that front. Stars still look really good too at the other end of things. Like they scuffled through the Wedgwood absence. They don't have Heiskanen, and he hadn't been as good this year either. But you look at it, they still have 3 really high quality offensive lines. I'm pretty high on the Stars. I think we're gonna see like 2 months from now. I imagine they're still gonna enter the playoffs like more comparable to the Jets and kind of like in that upper tier rather than anything else. So current prices look decent, but I definitely don't or closer to accurate, I should say, but I don't mind the Stars at all here.
I would add that I've been really surprised with Detroit, and they do leave off get a ton of credit. They navigated a pretty brutal scheduling spot like twice in a row in the last week. I tried to fade them, I feel like every time and got burnt. Like they went at home, then at Toronto, then at Florida, win both of those games, go back up to Carolina, then home. Like it is, and it was really impressive their win over Tampa Bay. And I know Tampa Bay has been kind of a polarizing team in terms of what we think they are, but God, I just have a hard time because I give Detroit a lot of credit. Like it's hard for me to fade them with the way that they just did things. Like this was like NHL spots, like scheduled loss type things that they just
But they were,
navigated.
I wouldn't, yeah, but they were really lucky in that Florida game, and Florida didn't have Barkov. Like I think they did run pretty good on that one.
It's
That would
true.
kind of
It's
be
true.
one knock.
Yeah,
Yes.
I just I give them I continue to think, you know, less of them and try to fade them, and I just haven't been able to do it. It's like it's killing me.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
that that game against Toronto, especially, with all the travel and like showing up at an hour before. Yeah, so good on the Wings for sticking around. I should say more than sticking around in this playoff race. Two teams that are not in said playoff race right now, Ottawa and Montreal. The Habs are a plus 124 underdog at home. Ottawa traveling as a minus 148 favorite at a total 6.5. I will say one thing about the Senators right now. We've seen them do this before, this group especially. Like they just start winning off these meaningless games down the stretch of lost seasons. So you're gonna hear that maybe talked about with the Senators as we get into the dog days of February and March. I'm not betting the Senators here, and I also will say too that Shane Pinto I think makes a difference because he gives them a really good third line center, a guy who can help them see out leads. He's smart, good skater, good with the puck on his stick, good Long Island guy. So you know that he helps them a bunch in the room, but I there are very few teams in the NHL I'd want to bet Ottawa at minus 150 on the road with. So the Habs don't make that list, Nick.
I would actually be closer on the Sens here than anything else. I'm quite low on the Canadiens. We were happy they paid off for us last Wednesday, but this team is just getting caved in. I don't even think the pieces that people are pumping up are playing as good as they are. And I still like the Sens, and it's a 2-game sample, so I don't want to rate it too much because they've been legitimately worse under Martin. But they played unreal versus Winnipeg on Saturday. That was a stupid loss, and it paid off the next day on Sunday. And I was looking at what they would need to get into the playoffs. They probably need about 29 wins out of the next 42 games. So if you're someone who's going to go down that road, just keep in mind that the prices out there are kind of absurd when you look at the amount of points they need to collect. They need to collect like 62 more points. So
I thought you were going to
um,
say they need 29 things to happen.
they probably need, 50 things to happen. But I'm just low on Montreal right now. I think, and the one thing I like too, the Sens have been pretty good at paying off their offensive chances. I don't know. It's a hard one to handicap though, because Montembeau is pretty much giving them, some of the best goaltending in the league. and then you're looking at the Sens, who can just find a way to lose any game. So I don't know. I wasn't going to touch this one, but I was kind of interested in the Sens.
It's hard to wipe off the emotional scarring that Ottawa has given us. And I'm not even talking about from like betting and getting burned by them. I'm just talking about the way that they've played. Like, they've how underwhelming they've been. But then this last sample, they've played pretty well. Like you said, Nick, they deserve to win that game against Winnipeg for sure. They rise to the occasion against Philly as a dog. And I think a lot of this price has to do with the fact that Ottawa, waxed Montreal 6-2 in Ottawa, I think a week ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever time it is
Just the
now.
underlying profiles too, right? Because
Yes.
Montreal is not looking so hot.
So, I
We're
mean,
actually dead last over the last 10 games, 38% expected goals.
If I had the ability to, wipe the slate clean and just, today's a new day, forget about the past, I would be on Ottawa here. But I don't have that ability. I'm sorry. I'm not that. I wish I was better, man.
Yeah. If this is an opening night game, we'd be talking about the Senators and talking about, hey, bet them 101 to win the President's Trophy. Luckily, it's January 22nd. I think this is the game of the night. Bolts and Flyers. It's a pick'em. It's in Philadelphia, and the total's 6.5. I like Philly here. I'd like them at anything minus 120 or better. Tampa Bay's like Detroit, like in a different way, deserves credit for finally putting together a stretch. I think a lot of people just assumed this was going to come based on pedigree alone. But when you looked at the numbers, there was never really a sign that Tampa was going to start cooking up some wins. And they did come to a halt against the Red Wings over the weekend. But Tampa's now in the mix here with Detroit, with Toronto for the third spot of the Atlantic. And they're in the wild card mix. So good on the Lightning for doing that. And Tim's been saying all season long, like, I just don't want to bet against this team. I don't want to put my what's on the table, as Islanders coach Patrick Waugh would say, and go against them. That said, I just think the Flyers right now are playing a better game this season, right? Like, it's that simple, and they're home, and it's a coin flip, and it's a pick 'em. And if you looked at these two teams, their statistical profiles, and you covered up the names, and you said, all right, well, team A, team B, it's a pick 'em. Team A is at home. Here's their numbers. Team B is on the road. Here's their numbers. Who would you bet? I think you'd always look at the Flyers side of that equation. So that's what I'm going to try to do here. Tim, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm on Philly too. Both teams, it's 3-4 for the two of them. And what you said, I've been banging the drum for the last couple of weeks. They're the best bet for a good effort. And with both teams in the same situation, advantage Philly for being at home. With the 3-4, yeah, I'll take the bet on the team that I can just trust more to give me that all-out type effort. Tampa Bay, they're still a little depleted on the back end with Sergachev, and now, Saranak's day to day. So, it's not a huge needle mover for me, but when you talk about the amount of bodies that, how thin Tampa Bay is. Also, too, Tampa Bay's greatest weapon, right? We know it's the power play, best power play in the league, but Philly, second best kill in the league. So, that's a good matchup for my liking. Also, under 6.5, I like, if you can get that. I think if you like Philly, it's correlated with the under. So maybe same game parlay if you're interested. I just put one in on my phone, paid plus 235. Philly, it's hilarious. 2 unders, 8 overs in their last 10. This is the formula for them. This is how they want to win. They're so well coached. They're such a joy to watch. I have no problem putting money on them. And I would say too, I'm not going to bore you with the details, but in terms of the way that the bookmakers have had they've had a very difficult time handicapping the Flyers. 1 minute they're like a minus 185 favorite, and we're like, wow, that's a little too much respect. And then they're they'd be like a plus 152 dog. It's like I feel like Vegas is flip-flopping over and over on what they think of them, but I'll just continue to pick my spots with where I think I'm going to get a good effort.
Yeah, I had thought I agree with you guys. I'm not going to talk anyone out of Philly here. I think they deserve to be a slight favorite, but I didn't have enough conviction to want to cover the vig on the game. So not going to argue against anyone here. And without looking, you guys don't, I don't look at stuff like this too much. but I knew it would be true. Tampa's been a very unprofitable team. I think more than any other team, that's not surprising at all because the logic is simple. They're getting a lot of credit for their priors over and over. So that ties into what Mike said, I think, about just looking at any statistic you want recently in this year. Philly's played a slightly better game. Obviously, don't have the same kind of goal scoring upside and power play that can just steal games, but they're definitely playing a much more complete team game, getting pretty reasonable goaltending. So I agree. I wouldn't go against Philly here at all.
Nick, your Caps are in Minnesota to take on the Wild. Capitals are plus 136. The Wild minus 162. A total of 6 for this one. Feel like this one could be a good overtime look if you want to go that route. In terms of the money line, so I got nothing here. I thought maybe the way that the lines looks and the fact that Minnesota's already taken money, maybe we can get to the Caps, but I doubt it. What do you think?
Yeah, I was excited to smash Minnesota here, thinking they would open in like the minus 140 range, but the odds makers were pretty wise to where the Caps are at and where Minnie's at. I think Minnie, I was kind of mad at myself because I didn't have any conviction to follow up. It was kind of, I thought that maybe ahead of that Tampa game, Minnie was being mispriced because they had all their guys back, and then they let down so bad. I didn't ride it out over the weekend, and then they beat Florida and they beat Carolina. And granted, the Carolina game was pretty lucky, but that's what happens when you have Kaprizov back in the lineup and you have some elite goal scoring upside. Kind of the only note that I'll throw out there that we had talked about before. There's still Brock Faber out there at plus 700 to win the Calder Trophy, and I would play that. I think if you have not, like if I had like a 40, like if you have a 40-1 ticket from earlier in the year, then no, I wouldn't add. But if you have nothing and you want a little Calder, I think that he should be closer to plus 550 right now. I think if you're getting better than plus 600, you have the price to play. And that's with Bedard. Like, I don't even hate Bedard right now either, but I just think Faber should have closed the gap a lot more than this. He has more points outright than Luke Hughes now. He makes a bigger difference at even strength. He plays everywhere. He's averaging over 24 minutes now, and that's with the sample of games earlier in the year with Spurgeon in the mix. So he's not going to play 30 like he was when they were so depleted, but I just think the avenue's there. He's going to keep quarterbacking the top power play, which hasn't had Kaprizov that often. And since Kaprizov's come back, Faber's just racking up points there. So I think there's a pretty good case for Faber. Obviously, it sounds like Bedard's going to come back closer or sooner than anyone expected, which hurts. But I was kind of surprised to see that there was still a plus 700 out there on Faber. So do like that.
Probably a good little Bedard hedge too, if you have that already, right?
Yes, I think that'd be a good way of looking at it. I think you could do the reverse too, actually, with Bedard at minus 180. If you had a really good Faber ticket at 50-1 or 40-1, then you could, I think, consider that. It's a little scary because like I know Luke Hughes is still wedged in between them, but I don't really agree with that.
I would say the Capitals, man. Like Nick, maybe I just trust you too much, but we've had like I feel like a difficult time, right? Fading them in the last what was it
It's
last
brutal.
week? It was
It's been for me all year, and it feels like every time they get a lucky win, I'm trying to fade them, and then the times I'm like sticking by my guns, saying they're not very good, they lose, and I didn't play it because that's what happened Saturday. I kind of like I felt like the Blues got pretty unlucky, and Thursday I wasn't really convinced. I kind of thought the Caps were, and every time I'm just like, oh, I just want to watch the game and kind of hope they win, and then they always lose those ones. So I've been riding that very consistently, and I thought I would definitely end up fading them again, but yeah, like we said, that Wild are getting quite a bit of credit here, so I don't think
yeah,
there's anything else to do.
yeah. I really wanted to bet the Wild, but yeah, same thing. The price was just not to my liking. Didn't want to pay that much. And just for not to speak for Nick here, but for myself, why I'm trying to fade the Caps. They're 22, 16, and 6, despite a minus 24 goal differential. I mean, it's just pretty remarkable.
It's
That's
ridiculous. They
why.
win every close game, like every
That's
close game, and then every time they lose 4-0, like someone's probably just bet on them. Like whenever they think they're going to lose, just fading their like puck line and stuff. But that's the kind of thing that I feel like eventually you're going to lose some of the close games. So that's why I have a hard time like betting into that. Just like bet them to lose big thing because I don't necessarily think it's like a sustainable trend. I just think eventually they're going to lose more games. The only case in their favor is Oshie's playing a lot better now, and Pacioretty and him have kind of had some good chemistry, so it gives them a little bit of offensive upside they didn't have. But yeah, it's still hard to look at them as being as good of a team as they are in the standings.
Yeah, and Minnesota really has to get going here. I would call it a successful trip down south, winning 2 or 3, but they have some winnable games coming up on the schedule. So they got to get going. And Leboff, just for you here, the only team in that same neighborhood as the Capitals would be the Islanders, 20, 15, and 11 with a -20 goal differential. But we might be buying
Yeah,
on them.
let's
Might be buying them.
yeah, we'll save that for later. Look, it's a new day on the island that we're not even concerned about the first 40 something games of the season. It's all about the future. It's all about St. Patrick Roy. We'll get to him. We got 2 more games to go over here. Sabres and Ducks. Buffalo -162, Anaheim +136, total 6.5. I like Anaheim here as an underdog at home to a Buffalo team that is not very good. They are 6-4 in their last 10, and that's basically what they've been doing all season. At their high water mark is like they'll win 6 out of 10, and then they'll lose 7 of the next 10, and then they'll win 6 out of 10, and it's just been ugly. It's been ugly all season. And Anaheim stinks. I don't need to like pump their tires any bit here, but I was kind of encouraged with what I saw out of them against the Rangers. I thought they played a couple decent periods against a much better opponent. I know that the goal was very much offside, but a headier play maybe. It's 3-1 Ducks, and that game becomes a little bit of a different story. And the scoreline doesn't look flattering at all. But Anaheim was up late, pretty late in that game, 2-1. And yeah, I just don't trust Buffalo as this much of a favorite on the road. I think it's pretty simple here. So, give me the Ducks. Wouldn't play it much further than this +136 number, but I do think this is an okay time to bet on Greg Cronin's Anaheim Ducks. Tim.
I felt the same way. When I looked at the line, Buffalo -162. I know Anaheim's home. I'm just like, says who? Like, says who? The Buffalo Sabres are that much better than Anaheim. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I have the charisma, the courage to actually bet Anaheim, but Buffalo should not be like getting this much like power ranking love because they're so volatile and their bad is really bad.
So low event too. I can't believe how low event the Sabres are. Like it's so weird watching this team that Nick, all season last year you were talking about how much you loved watching Buffalo Sabres hockey. And it was driving me up a wall because they were chasing the Islanders for a playoff spot. And I was like, well, what about the Islanders? Watch the Islanders. They're fun too. I don't know if I've seen a team do like this kind of a 360 before. You'll see it with records and teams who are terrible defensively will turn things around because they have to. But this one where it seemed like they were going down the right path and they found a really nice rhythm offensively without changing really any of their playing personnel or coaching personnel, and just are a completely different team now. It's so weird. So yeah, I think Anaheim's they're a bad team. They're really bad defensively, but Buffalo isn't the type of team that's going to punish you, at least this season. So I do think that helps the Ducks here. Nick, anything on Sabres and Ducks?
No, I didn't really have much to add here. The Ducks are terrible. I think this is a fair race for my opinion, but I don't know. It's just, yeah. I kind of looked at this and I was like, all right, I don't want to bet that game.
Your loss. Rangers and Sharks to close it up before we get to best bets. The Rangers are laying -360, San Jose +285, total of 6. The Rangers malaise has kind of continued. I know they beat Anaheim on Sunday night, but 4-5-1 in their last 10. They've basically been a 500 hockey team for a couple months now. But Nick, that's not enough for you to stay off them here.
No, I'll throw that out because when I put this, like, there's puck line at -115 today. There's Rangers at -300. So it's a huge gap. So I would just add those numbers I had a play that I had posted, not at -360. That's a big gap. So it kind of just depends what you're getting here. I fully respect. We've talked about it more than anyone. I don't think the Rangers are playing that good at 5-on-5. we have talked about how they're just dominant at reeling off these wins they're supposed to get. They always find a way. Like 2-0 down to the Ducks, I was like, oh, it's just they're gonna get like a power play soon. They're gonna score. They're gonna get the Ducks on their heels. They'll find a way. I think this is a kind of a smash spot for exactly that kind of a narrative. You get Sharks playing leg 2 of a back-to-back. I don't know. I don't love the Rangers, but I thought it was actually better than like when I look at this game and think about minus 310, I think that's fair. Like they deserve to be a bigger favorite than that, and they'll pay off more in this spot. So I don't love it. It's ugly. I think whatever. I'm not gonna. And the one note I'll throw, since I don't really want to pump this too much, is whenever just because I actually got a really reasonable response from a nice follower on Twitter about your Islanders game, Mike, because I had posted on the app a small bet on the Islanders over the Hawks, which was strictly just saying like at minus 240, I thought they were going to win the game closer to 3 out of 4 times. So I thought there was an edge there. So whatever, it is what it is. It's horrific to post a pick like that. But I'll just play a unit on a game like this. I don't believe that you have to bet 3 units to win 1 unit. I think you can just play whatever you think your edge is. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it. I'm just saying that's the way that I post it. And I had the guy, I think he was saying I was betting to win 1 unit. And then he was saying that the data looked wrong because it was only saying minus 1 unit in the thing. So I'll just note that I'm always posting what I'm recommending as a bet size on the game based off what I expect the edge to be. I know part of the reason people don't do that is because when you bet in person, then you get given like pennies and change from the teller. But I am aware of that, but that's the way I look at it. It's just like, what kind of an edge do I have on this game, I think, and then go from there. So with that said, yeah, I think that the Rangers deserve to be minus 360. It sounds like more of the sites are going to get there, minus 370. But, oh, the Sharks, they're getting dummied again.
Yeah, but Logan
It's
Couture's
bad.
back. Logan
Yeah,
Couture's back. He's gonna fix everything.
He's only filling into Granlund's role, and Granlund hadn't been that bad, right? So I think
Yeah.
like on the actual, like it doesn't really help them because now he's just playing second line center over Granlund, and it's like whatever you price that in, it's not huge needle mover unless Couture's playing really, really well. So, oh, I don't know. It's one of those ones I'll feel like an idiot, but I think if some of the openers, the Rangers, and this is another important handicapping note that I'll throw out there quick too. I think more of the games where we've seen like a ton of line movement and like bad misprices, like last week, Mike and Tim, the Montreal game in New Jersey, a lot of sites opened that one up really, really badly. Like I thought Montreal was pretty clear they deserved to be a bigger favorite. And I thought there were some bad openers there. A couple weeks ago, Chicago versus Edmonton. Like I actually think some of these like humongous favorites and like also underdogs have been some of the ones with like the biggest misprices this year. So I mean, it'd be a little complicated to explain how to what all goes into pricing those, but I guess I would just say like keep your eye on those because it seems like a lot of them have been the ones that are having openers all over the place with kind of a more significant on what edge on one side or the other.
Also, I'll throw in here, like the spot for San Jose is really, I mean, you said back to back, but San Jose's going down to LA and then back home here. California is a big state, everyone. This is still, like 300 miles or whatever it is. Like, I think a lot of people just assume the same state, like, oh, this is more travel than you think, fellas.
Well, and I think the Sharks too. I mean, this doesn't. I don't want to go. I don't like going down too far down these paths, but that's a pretty big game for the Sharks relative to being like a lottery write-off pick in LA. Like they've lost LA like 7 straight or 8 straight or something, and the division rival that I'm sure they'd like to have. So you'd think they'll be up for that one, and maybe that hurts their upside a little bit here. I just feel like I think the Rangers pay off in this spot.
And it's good. I took the puck line, Nick, while you were talking. It's great because we can just absolutely like destroy the Rangers if they lose this game.
No, but if they don't, it'll be that they freaking win in overtime or like come
Yeah, they'll be down like they'll be down something
goals.
stupid. It'll be the same script as the Ducks game.
Well, I'd take that 5-2 final. That's all we want.
All right, on to best bets now, and we'll start with mine because we already talked about it a bunch. And I like St. Louis in Calgary plus 136. As Tim outlined, these two teams, the gap just isn't that wide for the Flames to be this big of a favorite even at home. So I'll ride with the Blues in that one. Okay, let's talk about yours, Tim. Let's talk about the Islanders. Let's talk about the Golden Knights. Traveling to Long Island from New Jersey, on the second night of a back-to-back. Knights plus 110. Red hot. We'll see what happens in Jersey. Isles, 1 game winning streak under Patrick Waugh, minus 130. Total here of 6. One thing to note, and this is actually going to be important for what you talked about. While we've been recording, Semyon Varlamov was activated off IR. Ilya Sorokin has played 15 games in a row. I don't think it's going to be this one. I think that they'll probably target the game in Montreal for Varlamov as his first start. Give him like a little bit of a softer opponent in his first game back in a while. But it is some homework you got to do. Anyways, let me cede the floor to you, Tim, and talk about your Isles.
My Isles, your Isles, they're now my Isles too, because, just to put my cards on the table, my family, I was born in Colorado. My family had season tickets to the Avalanche. Joe Sakic was my first word. So I have, posters and, everything of Patty Waugh, Joe Sakic, all those great Avalanche. So I was already, rooting for, Patty Waugh's second stint as an NHL head coach to go well. And, I was like looking for any excuse to bet this team just because of my personal bias. And then you get this Vegas team in a pretty tough back-to-back spot, New Jersey, and then on the island. And it's not just about, okay, yeah, back-to-back. This Vegas roster, and you get credit for the comeback win against Pittsburgh on Saturday night, but they're pretty depleted, man. This, you go and just look on their line chart, like the middle of the ice with no Eichel, no William Karlsson. It's really tough. And you're getting an Islanders team, obviously waiting for them here. Short price. I got it at 130. Honestly, I don't care what Nick says. Like, I would probably like it to 145 or something like that. I just think it's, we're getting an inspired Islanders group here. Patty Waugh on the boys. Vegas, they're limping into the All-Star break here, even though they've been, digging deep, but it's a tough spot for them. Islanders all the way. You're muted, boss.
Yeah, I fully agree. I love the Islanders here. I think it's a great spot. I don't even want to rate the potential turnout under Waugh too greatly either. And he deserves, like, I'm not trying to slight him at all. I think he definitely proved that he deserves another chance in Quebec to be a head NHL coach with what he's done there the last 5, 6 years. And but yeah, like you said, Tim, this Vegas team's completely decimated. And I mean, the Pens game was their best game of the week, I would say, but they also didn't prove that what's in the lineup is going to control that much of the play. And then the other area for upside, like hopefully if people can block in some good numbers, if Aiden Hill doesn't return, you have the potential, I think, to get a really, really good ticket in this game because Logan Thompson's going to play Monday. So unless they go back to back with Thompson, like I think it could be a situation where you end up really, really happy with the price you have on the Islands if you bet it early. So I think everything works in favor of that. It's just this is just a brutal spot if you're Vegas, just playing so short so many guys, and now you got to go into there's gonna be all these crazy leave-off guys in this arena. Like I feel like I like the Islanders to make it tough on them. I'm not convinced on what Vegas has done over the last week, yeah, and granted they have a very good excuse. I'm not trying to doubt them there on that front, but it just feels like one where you can totally see them running out of gas and not owning much of the play. And even then, what they have done, like they've really just kind of gotten better goaltending and more clinical finishing. But like, I don't think the overall product has looked much sharper than it was when they had that huge lull in like December. I think they're kind of still just right there and got on the better side of some variance in those games. Like the Rangers game, everything just went in. The Preds game, the Preds I thought could have had 4 or 5. They missed some pretty good opportunities. So
Desperate New Jersey team Monday night too. Like
like I just want to fade
2 teams here that are like really need to get going.
Yeah, it's just it's a tough spot, and I feel like I can just see Dallas running them out of the building here, and then you get the potential for like 4th string goalie for Vegas if Aiden Hill doesn't return, and then like
even if Thompson's back to back, like it's going to be a tough night. Like even
and I don't know if they do that either. I don't think they really care about where they're at. So yeah, there's just too many ways that this can work out being such a good number that I think it's definitely a great bet right now.
What could go wrong, Mike?
Nothing. Nothing could go wrong. I'll tell you the quick anecdote about how I learned Patrick Waugh was named Islander head coach. I was flying back from Mexico on Saturday. Got on the internet. About 20 minutes later, the news came down. I walked up about 20 rows to where my dad was sitting, let him know, and I walked back, and there was a guy sitting in an Islanders sweatshirt about halfway back between my dad and my seat, and he was sleeping. And I woke him up, and I told him.
Stop it.
Complete stranger. Yeah.
And he said, "Who are the Islanders?"
No, I told him. I said they fired Lambert, and he goes, "Oh, really? That's great." And you could see like his lights were still turning on. I go, "They named Patrick Waugh the head coach." He's like, "Get the fuck out of here." So I like he might have just fallen right back asleep and thought it was a dream, but yeah. So that's how that happened. Yeah, Islanders for me too. Roll on St. Patrick. And Nick, we talked a little bit about Oilers and Blue Jackets, but your best bet comes in on the total.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the over 7 if you're getting better and even money, I think is a good bet. There's just too many avenues for this blowing up for me. I mean, I still view Columbus as being a team with more offensive upside. I think this could be one of those times you see them kind of surprise and pay off early. And it's been a much better stretch for Calvin Pickard, but I still don't think this is something we can be sold on. Like, he was out of the NHL for a reason. So I think that gives a really good avenue for Columbus. And then at the other side of things, like if the Oilers get in a position where they need to chase this game at all, like Columbus's defensive upside has just been downright terrible. And Tarasov's been really bad as well. It almost feels, I kind of think Merzlikins has been getting a little worse than he deserves when you look at some of the numbers and how awful Tarasov's been in comparison when he's in the net. So, and Spencer Martin and whoever's in, it just, to me, even 7 doesn't seem high enough. I think there's way too much upside here. It feels hard to imagine the Oilers scoring less than 4 at all. And I just think this has all the avenues to blow open with just Calvin Pickard if the Oilers aren't locked down. Versus, and the other thing too, like I think Columbus, their power play should have a little more upside than it's shown moving forward. So for me, I think they're going to trend to being like a pure over team like we saw like a lot of last year. And even at 7, I like this one.
Hey, Nick, you said that Pickard was, an AHL goaltender for a reason. I thought that Jack Campbell was given 5x5 for a reason, at the NHL level. Just saying.
Campbell.
I mean, it's true. It's hard to project goaltending, but
it is hard to project it. And if Campbell can just catch fire here down the stretch, Tim, that Vezina ticket is still alive.
If they win the President's Trophy.
Yeah. Just need Skinner, Pickard, the guy who's playing over him in Bakersfield to get hurt and him to get white hot and look, and all of a sudden your ticket has legs again.
Feels like 150 to 1 parlay.
That's why it's 150 to 1. That's why
can you win the Vezina playing like 18 games?
Well,
Mhm.
I don't know.
We're gonna find
out.
He might not even hit 18, I guess.
All right. On that note, we'll wrap it here. We'll be back for Wednesday and Thursday as well this week as we head into the All-Star break. It's a fun schedule on Wednesday, actually. For the first time in a while, we get a handful of good games. Looking forward to seeing you there. Until then, best of luck with all your bets, especially that one on the Islanders.